Saturday night, thanks to 50upclub.com. And now, here's your host with the most, Glenn Wheeler.
Well, thank you very much. Lovely to be with you on this Saturday night. And I think it's fair to say it's officially in the lead up to Christmas now. Only about 18 sleeps to go, I think, just off the top of my head. Thank you, Dan Mullins, warming us up on this Saturday afternoon, and we'll be here right through until midnight, of course. Another cracking day in Sydney, and it seems that all people want to do if they're in the real estate market is sell homes at the moment. This is the Clubhouse, by the way, and of course 50 Up is our sponsor on a Saturday night between 6 and 7. If you haven't already joined up, make sure you jump online soon and join up, because there are some great things happening with the 50 Up Club already. The first deal was announced a week ago with the Coles car insurance deal. That was announced on the Alan Jones Breakfast Show. And a little bird tells me that the next deal for 50 Up Club members will be announced in the week ahead on Alan's program. So stay tuned. Another cracking deal coming up already. There's over 40,000. I think the number's close to about 45,000 people have joined up, which is fabulous. And already saving hundreds of dollars on comprehensive car insurance with the first 50 Up Club special offer. In fact, just on that, one member from Bronte apparently saved $600 by switching her comprehensive insurance. She was amazed and apparently had to call back to check there wasn't some mistake made. Another member from Dural saved $562 on his first year's annual premium by moving his comprehensive policy. Now, the thing about the car insurance special offer is that it closes on Tuesday, December 17. So you've got a little over a week to take advantage of that. The first thing to do, if you haven't already joined 50 Up Club, is to jump online, 50upclub.com if you are 50 and over, and you can then take advantage of the great deals. And as I say, more great deals coming up. The Clubhouse on a Saturday night, and that's where we are between now and 7 o'clock. The thing about the Clubhouse and the thing about the 50 Up Club is that when you get large numbers of people together, you can move mountains. So that's the whole point here. We are a very formidable group of people, us over 50s, very fashionable and very attractive too, I might add. There are more of us in Australia than any other demographic. So if you haven't joined up yet, do it now. It costs nothing and it's very easy, and the benefits will be significant. Now, I mentioned about real estate because it's a hot topic at the minute, very hot topic. The fortnight before Christmas is a time traditionally when many of us, battle the crowded shops, and we're doing all the Christmassy things, shopping, wrapping presents, stocking the fridge and the pantry and all that sort of stuff. But this year, it would seem that more people than ever are more intent on selling property or buying property. Let's go to our man around town who is probably the epicentre of what's happening when it comes to real estate action, and in particular auction action in the city of Sydney. Damien Cooley from Cooley Auctions joining us on the line once again. G'day, Damien.
Hey, Glenn, how's things?
Yeah, good, thank you. So how do we go today? Another busy day? It hasn't dropped off at all yet?
No, it's certainly another busy day today. In fact, just behind last weekend was the biggest weekend we'd experienced in quite some time for the Sydney market. For us as a business, this Saturday we've just finished was actually our biggest day. We had a whopping 111 auctions on today, and we managed to sell 76 of those. So some great results had by all.
Yeah, great result in terms of sales achieved. You say that 111 for you guys at Cooley. Yep. Across Sydney, I believe there were about 850 or so auctions scheduled.
Yep, that's right.
And next week, looking ahead to December 14, a new record set, 960 auctions booked in.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, these records, they just keep getting broken. And normally at this time of year, when the property market starts to wind down in terms of volume, it's actually starting to really crank up. So it's a big test for the market, because what we're absolutely seeing is we've seen unprecedented auction numbers throughout spring. The results have been very good, and the numbers, they keep building. And what we're definitely seeing is vendors' expectations are rising, as we've spoken about for the past few weeks, and it's becoming more and more evident as the volume increases that it's getting harder and harder every weekend. But there are still great results. Okay,
have you got some examples of what was achieved today out and about?
Yeah, I've got a couple of different areas I'd like to talk about. We had one property which was in Bondi Junction, which I thought was worth particular note. It was a 4-bedroom terrace in Bondi Junction. It was 105 Ruthven Street in Bondi Junction. It had a reserve of $1,650,000 and it attracted 12 registered bidders and it sold for $1,935,000.
Gee whiz.
So, pretty amazing result. I'm thinking the vendors were pretty happy with that.
I bet they're not even listening to us at the moment.
It's interesting. Like you go from one extreme to another. We had a great property in Bondi Junction. Then we went out to Baralla, which was marketed on behalf of Elders Lidcombe. That was number 84 6th Avenue in Baralla. It was a 5-bedroom home, 3 bathrooms, off-street parking for a couple of vehicles. It had a reserve of $950,000, which was an optimistic reserve price, and it sold. It actually also attracted 12 registered bidders, and it sold for $970,000. So it was a really strong result for the area, and it was a great family home.
Gee, that certainly highlights a story I think was in one of the papers today, saying that the $1 million price tag is very quickly spreading to the western suburbs of Sydney as well as an average house value. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the important thing is that when you look at the real estate cycle and where we've come from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and you look at where we are today, whenever we're talking about real estate, things seem expensive. It's hard to get in your initial purchase, but when you look at the cycle, and that's all it is a real estate cycle, at the moment we're in an upswing. We're getting really strong results, good volume, good sales. It will change. It's just a matter of when it will change. And there's nothing at the moment that's suggesting that it's going to slow down dramatically anytime soon.
No, we mentioned that last week when we spoke to your brother Andrew, and in fact a listener called in asking his advice in relation to putting her parents' home on the market, I think, in the Sutherland area. She said that, she was just concerned that putting something on the market now or getting on the market, around Christmas, New Year would be not the ideal time because people go on holidays, etc. And Andrew basically echoed exactly what you're saying now. No, get it all sorted, get it on the market before Christmas and try and plan to get to auction as soon as you possibly can because, strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what a lot of vendors are now doing, particularly when you look at where we are, today's the 7th of December, what a lot of people will do between now and the end of the year is they might look to try and auction their property early in 2014, say roughly anywhere from early to mid-February and beyond. But what they will also do is they could possibly put their property on the market right now, privately. So when I say privately or quietly is probably a better word, where they may not actually set an auction date straight away, but the agent might send it out to their database of buyers they're working with. And they might actually attract the buyer and be able to sell that pre-auction before the end of the year. Then, if it hasn't sold, what would normally happen is that they would go into a full marketing campaign in early 2014 and look for an auction date in about mid-Feb.
Yeah, and I know that that's exactly what happens with many of the agents around town, particularly, as I say, agents that have got a good marketing background, a good marketing campaign happening behind the scenes, with a database and all that sort of stuff. And it's not uncommon for them to put properties out there, send off their text message or their direct mail, whatever it is, to prospective buyers and have properties sold within a week of going on the market. It's not uncommon.
Not uncommon at all. And I think the important thing to take out of that is that there are a lot of purchasers who have missed out on properties. And there are a lot of purchasers who are really desperate to buy, potentially before Christmas or early in the new year. Those purchasers right now are waiting for properties to come on the market that tick every box for them as either an investment or as a family home. And that's the type of buyer that can pounce straight away, purchase a property, happy to settle relatively quickly. And that's where vendors are taking advantage of coming onto the market now before the end of the year and snapping up those buyers before another property attracts that buyer in early 2014.
Good-o. All right, Damo, we'll catch up with you next week when a new record is set. 960 auctions booked in already for December 14. We'll talk to you then and find out how it goes.
Thanks, Glenn.
Damien Cooley from Cooley Auctions. This is the Clubhouse on a Saturday night here on 2GB. At your local greengrocer, and particularly Forest Way Fresh, where they've got some sensational mangoes and iceberg and cos lettuce and cherries and peaches and apricots and all sorts of beautiful things. Forest Way Fresh on the corner of Mona Vale Road and Forest Way at Terry Hills. It is a sensational store that has easy parking. It's got everything. They've got gourmet lines. They've got poultry, meat, continental goods, all sorts of things. Shopping is an adventure at Forest Way Fresh, and that's why we say get on up there, not only for all of your food stuff for this Christmas period, but also for great Christmas decorations and things as well. Forest Way Fresh, drop by and see the guys. They're open 7 days, corner of Forest Way and Monavale Roads, Terry Hills. The 50 Up Club forum went nuts during the week. In fact, got itself into a real lather over the question of whether older drivers should have to sit a compulsory driving test at age 85 in order to keep their licence. Now, this is a topic that comes up from time to time, and I must say right off the top that it's one that I'm quite passionate about, because I think that it is discriminatory in the very least that older drivers are the ones who end up being put under the microscope when it comes to getting a driver's licence after age 85. My argument simply is, how do you know that you're a good driver or I'm a good driver? We get tested once. I find it quite weird that we get tested once when we go and get our licence. We get behind the wheel of the car. We have a driving instructor that sits alongside us. We do a test. We do a test on the computer. We answer a few questions, and then we go out and they see whether we can drive, competently. And then nobody ever checks us again until 85 years of age. Doesn't that seem odd to you? Imagine if that was how it worked in an airline, for example, and an airline pilot didn't get checked for another 30 years. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, particularly when road accidents happen all too often. They're all too commonplace. We know that. So anyway, the 50 Up Forum did, as I say, work itself into a lather. Many of you jumping on board to express your concerns and make comments about what you thought in relation to the rules and regulations. Some very interesting posts, I've got to say. Some very interesting posts. Graham said, the issue of 85-year-olds having to sit another driving test every 2 years is a stressful ordeal. If your local GP thinks you're in good health, then that should be good enough to keep driving. If you have a record of having heart attacks, blackouts and strokes, then that's a different thing. But if you are healthy enough to do things like younger people do, then it's unfair to pick on the oldies. Leave the oldies alone, says Graham, and let them enjoy their lives as long as they can. Leslie said, over 85 medical test. Well, some drivers can cope with fast lane. Others cope with a daily drive to the shops, the church, etc. Maybe just a restricted licence for those who cope daily and need their vehicle. But please, not age-old plates with an S on it, S for senior or S for senile. Yeah, very good. And this one from Sue, who says, regarding driving tests, due to a disability at 50, I had to redo my driving test after a number of lessons. I learnt so much from those lessons and realised, like most of us, I had some very bad habits which are now rectified. For example, the blind spot, which most people think can be seen in their side mirrors. I do think everyone should be retested at 85. I'm also an advocate for regular driving checks for us all. It seems most people consider themselves excellent drivers, so I wonder why we have so many accidents, says Sue. What about this one from Prue? And Prue sent this one through to me this afternoon. She says, not only should older drivers be mandated to sit yearly driving tests, but they should not be allowed to drive automatic cars. The accidents that have been reported where older drivers have accidentally hit the accelerator instead of the brake will be avoided if they're in a manual car. Interesting thought. Prue also let me know that she's not a young whippersnapper. She's 51 years of age. It's all very interesting. What about this one, though, from Harold, who said, whilst talking about drivers over 85 having to go for yearly testing, why not expand on this to include those drivers whose licences have been suspended for excess demerit points, for excessive speeding or drink driving? In my view, says Harold, these people would be just as much a hazard on the road as those over 85. Make them do it yearly until they have 5 years without the offence occurring again. I invited Harold to join us on the program and have a chat about it tonight. He's on the line. G'day, Harold.
G'day, Glenn. How are you?
I'm well. It's a great concept of yours here, because I hadn't thought about that. That, we have on the one hand people turning 85 being told you've got to sit for a test to make sure you're competent, you know how to drive your car. But on the other hand, we've got people who lose their licence because they've clocked up too many demerit points, or they've been caught speeding too many times or excessively, or drink driving or whatever it might be, and they don't get penalised the same way.
Well, I think you're correct. I think we're testing people 85 just because they've turned 85. But then we have other people that, because of the way they drive, have brought themselves to our attention. Maybe we need to look at those, because how often do you see where there's been an accident and all of a sudden they come up and say, but this person has a history of this?
Yeah, exactly right. And if you have been, in the point that you've raised in your note on the 50 Up forum, if somebody has had their licence suspended, and whether that was for 3 months, 6 months, or maybe even a year, that essentially means that they have lost all of that, experience, that 3, 6, 12 months worth of experience of actually driving. So then they then get their licence reinstated with no test as such. They just get given their licence back again and they hop back in the car.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also had thought maybe the next logical step, because, the government's always saying the fines aren't for revenue raising, it's for road safety. Well, if that's the case, why can't part of the fine go to say, listen, when your suspension is up, part of your fine is going to go for you to have driving lessons, 2 or 3 driving lessons that are paid for out of this fine, to find out what your problem areas might be so that we can improve on it. Because I think the whole idea is to solve the problem. Like you say, just giving the license back, all they've done is a time and then they haven't been driving and then they're back on the road, but they may still have those bad habits.
How long have you been driving for, Harold?
I've been driving since I was 16, so that would be 41 years.
And do you consider yourself to be a good, bad, or average driver?
I would say between average and good. I think as most drivers, I have momentary lapses. I think people become comfortable, especially when you drive the same route every day. But I think I'm a good driver overall.
What if I was to sit you down and throw 20 questions at you from the driving handbook and get you to answer questions about how far you can park from a pedestrian crossing and what the rules are in relation to a roundabout and all that sort of thing? How do you think you'd go with all that?
I think when you got to the parking and everything like that, I think like most people, when I did move to Australia, I crammed for the test, on all the questions and stuff.
Yep.
And then I think once you pass, I think a lot of the things that you don't use on a daily basis just kind of get, glossed over. I think I know the basic rules, but if I was to sit down and have to take a driver's test again, I can't say with 100% surety I would pass it.
Would you feel more comfortable, and I'm assuming here that you are, of course, over 50.
Yes.
Would you feel more comfortable if, for example, you had to do more regular testing as opposed to just waiting until you turned 85? So let's say you take a test when you turn 50, you might take another test at 60, then 65, 70. Would you feel more comfortable about that sort of an arrangement rather than just saying, hang on, you've just turned 85 years of age, we don't think you're going to be a competent driver?
I wouldn't have a problem with that. I think possibly, if you just had to, when you went to renew your license, and maybe every 5th year after age 50 or, any arbitrary age, 45, if they say, we want you to take a written test just to refresh your knowledge. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think that sort of thing makes a lot of sense, regular testing as such. Harold, thank you very much for having a chat to us tonight. Also, thank you for posting your comments on the 50 Up website, because, as I said, it really worked its way into a bit of a meltdown situation last week, because lots of people had various comments that they wanted to put up there in relation to the annual medical checkups, which now start at the age of 75 instead of 80, and then the driving test, which cuts in at 85 years of age. I thank you very much for your time, Harold.
Okay, thank you very much, Glenn, and we appreciate the forum.
Good on you. No, thank you. And, of course, that's all part of 50 Up. So that forum that Harold's referring to is the forum at 50upclub.com and .com.au, and that's what you need to join and be a part of, and you can have a look at that forum and get involved. We're happy to take calls on this too if you want to call in with an opinion of your own, 131873. I'd especially like to hear from 50 Up listeners, people who are over 50 years of age who have an opinion on this in relation to both the annual medical checkups that now start at the age of 75 and then the actual practical driving assessment test, which starts at the age of 85, and then every 2 years, so 85, 87, 89 instead of every year. The thing about the medical checkup is an interesting one as well, because the medical checkup simply says basically that you go along to the doctor, and the doctor does a test on you to say, is your eyesight okay? Can you hear okay? Yep, okay, tick the box, away you go. Does it necessarily mean you're a good driver? Well, no, not necessarily. There is a guy in Sydney who I think is probably better qualified than most to assess who drives well. He's the managing director of Drive to Survive, and he's been doing it for a long, long time, teaching people the skills, the better skills of driving and how to handle a car in all conditions. And it is, of course, Ian Luff who joins us on the program tonight. G'day, Ian.
G'day, Glenn.
Interesting point that was made by Harold, our previous caller. He says, whilst talking about drivers over 85 years of age going for yearly testing, what about those drivers who have licences suspended for demerit points, excessive speeding and all that sort of thing? In my view, those people would be just as much a hazard on the road as those over 85. What are your thoughts in relation to age being the criteria for testing?
Look, I'm a great believer that age is not the be and all end of it, because whether you like it or not, every year on your birthday they throw another candle on the cake. And yes, the cakes get bigger because we need more candles. But the age doesn't have a lot to do with the ability, because I've trained in excess of 200,000 people, and I can look objectively and stand back, and I've seen young people that have got a young age that have got over-enthusiasm, lack of skill, and it's a license to kill. When I've seen older people that have been incredibly prudent in the way they control a motor vehicle, their attitude, their awareness, their anticipation skills, and I've also seen some, let's say, more mature age people that might have struggled because they've got eyesight problems, which comes back to that medical testing and so forth. So it's really a bit of a convoluted question, because age itself, I mean, 1 minute you're okay at 74, and then next minute at 75, you're supposed to have a use-by date come up. Come on, it's just not like that.
In your opinion, then, this is your business. Drive to Survive is all about teaching people to be able to handle cars better and drive better. In your opinion, should we be tested on a more regular basis all through our driving career rather than just leave it then till the end?
Well, look, that's right, Glenn. I mean, let's not leave it to a specific age. If we're really serious about road carnage, and we're talking here about a multi-billion-dollar problem on New South Wales roads. I mean, and to Duncan Gay's credit, the road minister, they've implemented the new Safer Drivers course for learner drivers. So we say, well, hang on, if we want to have a better result at the end of the rainbow, let's start at the beginning. So the government have got it actually right. But we've got to tie it up. We need to have more regular testing, and it needs to be skills-based. Forget about the textbook. That's one component, how far you park my fire hydrant in a corner. I mean, people don't get the tape measure out. It's common sense. But people drive cars, people crash cars. And you've got to go back and say, are you competent? They do it in the airline business where all the pilots have to fly a flight simulator to keep their hours up and make sure they're competent.
And thank God they do.
Well, look, exactly. And the aviation record, when you look at how many millions of hours are done in the sky, it's incredibly safe compared to what happens on our local streets and highways. So, I mean, we've got to take a leap out of that and say, well, look, if it's good enough for the pilots to be trained, why shouldn't people go back for retesting? But it must be practical. And as I said to you today when we chatted, it's nothing to do with a reverse park, a three-point turn, or a hill start. We've got to have people looking at their ability to react. In other words, their reactive skills in a situation where something could happen. I mean, the longer it takes to react, the further the car keeps going, potentially the bigger the impact. So, I mean, the government of today have got to take a full responsibility and say the roads are busier, cars have got new technology with 5-star safety, all the tricks and bits and pieces. And you know that a lot of people do not know how a lot of this 5-star safety stuff works, yet they bought a brand new car.
Oh, I have no doubt. ABS braking and all that sort of stuff, they're just words and letters to most of us, really. Given that the 50-plus demographic is a growing bunch of people, how many of us, I'm one of them, how many of us do you see through Drive to Survive, through your driving skills courses, wanting to improve themselves?
Well, only the week that's just gone, we had 5 courses, Monday to Friday, going through the whole gambit. And I would say that probably in that 50-plus bracket, we would have had probably around about a third, I would say, probably a third to that, maybe 40% could have been there. And these people are taking self-responsibility. They know, okay, they've bought a brand new car, and they want to find out what it's all about, and I think that's a good thing. Other people have got their own reasons, whether it be health or they might have had a bit of a scary moment, so they think, well, hang on, it's not going back to school. We're not ridiculing people. We're saying a motor vehicle doesn't discriminate. Your age has nothing to do with your ability. It's your awareness, it's your attitude, and the ability to be proactive, not reactive.
Makes a lot of sense. Ian Luff, thank you for your time tonight.
Always a pleasure, Glenn.
Ian Luff, drivetosurvive.com.au if you want to find out about what he does there, teaching us to be better drivers, and he's been doing that since about the early 70s, so he knows what he's talking about and a leader in driver education these days. Let's take some calls quickly on 131873. Paul's on a mobile there for us. G'day, Paul.
Yep, g'day.
Good, g'day.
Just wanted to say there's a number of things. I'm 58.
Yep.
I've been driving since, 17?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the laws have changed. The road rules have changed since that period of time. And I've never been, I should say, as a car driver, I haven't been tested on my knowledge of the new laws. I think perhaps at each anniversary or every 10 years, you really need to go back, whether it's 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70. You need to be tested on the new laws that have been brought in because they have changed.
Yeah, exactly. As Ian Luff just said, why not? Airline pilots get checked. Many other people who are responsible for carrying the public, passengers, paying passengers, they get checked on a regular basis. Why shouldn't we? We're driving weapons of mass destruction out there.
Well, yeah. Another aspect, though, I said that as a car driver, 2 years ago at age, 56, I went and got a motorcycle license. I had to go back and do the written test, shall we say. I managed to score 100% on that. They seem to be amazed. I don't know why. I then had to go out and actually do a training course before I was allowed to start even riding the bike.
Yeah.
So I think age has really got nothing to do with it. I think it's your ability to drive, and that needs to be assessed on a regular basis.
Yes, exactly right, and not in light of the age. Paul, thank you for the call. We'll take some more calls in just a tick. This is the Clubhouse on 2GB with thanks to 50 Up Club, 50up.com.au. This is the time of the year that your pantry cupboard should be absolutely chock-a-block with fabulous Sandhurst products, whether it's the char-grilled capsicum or the artichokes or the magnificent Kalamata olives. I opened a jar of Kalamata olives during the week from Sandhurst. Oh, sensational. Look, you need all of that plus a whole lot more because they've got such great products, Sandhurst, and you'll get them at just about all the supermarkets and some of the great local greengrocers around town as well. This is the time of the year. I mean, you should have them in the cupboard all year round, but this time of the year particularly for when friends and visitors and family and all that sort of people, people that just drop in and you need to be able to whip up something quickly. Easy, delicious, Sandhurst. We're going to talk about online dating in just a tick as well, because that's something also that if you're 50 up, then who knows, you might have that desire or that need in your life to find a friend, maybe just someone to have dinner with, go to the movies. It doesn't necessarily have to mean somebody that you're going to have some full-blown romance with. So we're going to do that in just a tick, but let's talk to Mark first on the open line, 131873. G'day, Mark.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
I agree with Mr. Luff that doing exams on a computer, like initially you do that, but once you get out on the road, most of that stuff goes by the board. You forget most of it. But I think the experience that you gain through driving every day, there's that much signage on the road, you don't have to be a genius to work it out. And what he said was most relevant was the fact that your competency of being able to drive a car in different conditions, be it wet or otherwise. I think that somewhere in they should sort of slot in where before you get your licence is that you have, say, 3 competency tests, whether you can drive properly. And in his school or whatever he does, I think that's the sort of thing that should be made compulsory.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's exactly what he does. His business, drivetosurvive.com.au, is all about giving us the skills to be able to handle the motor vehicle in all sorts of conditions and also to understand things like, as I mentioned before, ABS braking and the like.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Look, when people go for a licence, now I won't mention nationalities or anything, but virtually everybody gets a licence. Some of the instructors that okay these licences should be, they should be arrested because there's some people out there that do not know how to drive. They haven't got a clue.
Are you over 50, Mark?
Yeah, I am. I'm 67.
Okay. Have you joined 50 Up Club yet?
No, I haven't, but I'm an unbelievably good driver.